Hi there. In today's video, I want to talk about the C word, conditionals. So what does conditionals mean? That's the first thing I'd like to cover. So we're going to talk about what conditionals mean, then we're going to have a look at one nice simple example and put it under the microscope where we talk about the 4 forms of conditional sentences. So let's start off with, what does conditional mean? Well, when we look at the word conditional, what's the root word? The root word is condition. Now, condition does mean, of course, a couple of different things in English. Yeah, my hair is in reasonable condition, but that's not what we're talking about when we talk about conditional sentences. Condition also means that we have to have a certain set of conditions. We need to have certain things in place to create a specific result. If we take the colour green, for example, well, to make green, we need yellow and we need blue. Put them together and we get green. If I mix yellow and blue, I will have green. That is a conditional sentence. And it's made up of 2 clauses. So we're going to have a look at the 4 various forms of conditionals using a nice simple example because, well, that's what I like to do. Keep things simple. So let's look at Sue. Here is Sue. Oh, poor Sue. She sort of needs to lose a little bit of weight because, well, she's been trying for a while. If Sue eats less, she will lose weight. That's what we call a 0 conditional. That's the first form of a conditional sentence. And this type of sentence is a general truth. It's correct. If she eats less, she will lose weight. If any of us eat less, I'm sure we will lose weight. Now let's look at the next form. So we're going to look at the same sentence slightly differently. If Sue eats less, she will lose a kilo in 1 week. Yeah, that's a very high possibility, but it's not a general truth because we don't know whether Sue will lose a kilo in a week. That depends. Is she going to be motivated? Is she going to break her diet? Is she going to eat the right diet? Then again, she might stick to the diet, but she may only lose 1 or 2 pounds. She might not lose a whole kilo. So it's a very high probability, but it's not 100% truth. Now let's have a look at the next form. Sue is concentrating on her diet, but she's also got this dream about opening up a cafe. If Sue had a cafe, she would serve low-calorie food. This is what we call now an imaginary form. It's what we call our second conditional. And here, this is much less likely. There is a possibility, but it's much, much lower than if she were just to eat less and then lose a kilo. That's something that's in her control right now. But in the next sentence, where if she had a cafe, that's completely different because she's dreaming about it. And there are many conditions that need to be put in place for her to be able to do that. Does she have the money? Does she have the motivation? So many things to consider. So the chances of her opening up a cafe and actually doing that are much, much less likely than in the first conditional. Now let's have a look at the last conditional. That's what we call the third conditional in English. Okay, so Sue is trying to lose weight, but she's really annoyed at herself because, well, she broke her diet. She went out last night and she ate chips. Now she's put on 1 pound and she regrets it. If Sue hadn't eaten chips last night, she would not have put on weight. So in this third conditional, this sentence here is impossible. You can't change it because it's in the past. It's something that has happened. She's now thinking about, changing. She's thinking about being able to change, but she can't change it because it's in the past. So let's have a look at each one of those sentences again, and let's have a look at the words that we use. Let's look at the verbs that we use. Now, in all of these sentences, we use what we call a modal verb. Each sentence has 2 clauses. We have the if clause and then we have the results clause. So, looking at the first sentence again. If Sue eats less, she will lose weight. Here we use the simple present for the first clause, and in the results clause we use the modal verb will. And we do exactly the same in the first conditional sentence. If Sue eats less, she will lose 1 kilo in a week. We can also say she may lose 1 kilo in a week, but we often use the modal verb will for both the 0 conditional and the first. And again, we use the simple present for the first clause. Now when we go into the second conditional, which is imaginary, things change. We use the simple past for the if clause, and then we use would for the results clause. Because it's not real. It hasn't happened yet. And it may happen. Who knows? But we always use for a second conditional would in the results clause. And in the last sentence, which is completely impossible to change, we use the past perfect for the if clause, and once again we use would plus have, or wouldn't if it's negative, would not have, plus the past participle. So, to summarise, the quick tip to remember if you get confused using conditionals is that for 0 and the first conditional, we always use the simple present and we use will. If we're talking about an imaginary situation, which is conditional number 2, then we use the simple past and we use would. And if it's completely impossible, third conditional, we use the past perfect for the first clause, and then we use would plus have plus the past participle. Now, one last thing to mention also. We can swap those clauses around. Sue will lose weight if she eats less. Sue will lose 1 kilo in a week if she eats less. Sue would serve low-calorie food if she had a cafe. Sue would not have put on weight had she not eaten chips last night. Now, there are more conditionals. I will make more videos about conditionals, and we also have another category called mixed conditionals, which is going to be a separate video. So, on that note, I think I might go and have some chips myself. If you haven't subscribed, definitely hit subscribe and hit the bell as well, because there'll be plenty more coming. On that note, thanks for watching. I'm Larissa. Bye for now.